In this video, I want to go through 4 different things that I do to speed up my editing workflow. Because when it comes to editing, time is super important. It seems to be that every client I work with needs their projects faster, and then creating content here on YouTube, it's all about just being consistent and continually uploading. Editing for me has always been one of those bottlenecks where it just takes a lot of time to do. So I've really thought through my process and I've come up with different strategies to speed up the workflow and just make it go a lot faster. So originally this video had a sponsor, but when I showed them the first cut, they said they wanted me to redo the entire video. So instead of remaking the video, I decided just to cancel the sponsorship. So I'll use this as an opportunity to tell you about a new course I just released. It's a 2-hour beginner's guide on Final Cut Pro, and it goes through basically everything I do when I edit my videos and some of the things I do to speed up my workflow. Now you can watch this for free on Skillshare right now. It's down below in the description. If you've never signed up for Skillshare before, you can get 30 days for free and you can watch the course. And if you have a premium account, you can start watching right away. So the first tip I have for you has to do with organization. And you want to organize all your files before you even get into Final Cut Pro. And the reason for this is you don't want to have files strung across your computer, different hard drives, your downloads folder. If you have assets everywhere, then when it comes time to find something specific, you're now like digging through all of your different spots where there's footage or music or audio, and you end up losing things and it just ends up becoming a mess. So ideally, you'll have all of your assets put into one folder, and that folder is going to be somewhere easily accessible. Now, when it comes to the folder structure for me, I do everything based around projects. So I have a project number for every video that I work on, and I also use the date. So I'll have a folder that has the date, the project number, and then a title. And everything goes in that. I'll make a folder labeled media. In that media, I'll have all my cameras, I'll have my music, I'll have sound effects, whatever I've collected for this project, I'll put it all in here. This is also where I put my Final Cut Pro file, and I also put all of my exports and photos and thumbnails. Basically, everything for that video or that project is in one folder. And I use separate Final Cut Pro files for every project. And the reason that I make a Final Cut library for each project is it just keeps everything cleaner and simpler. You go back to this folder, it has everything in this folder, and I'm never looking for assets anywhere on my computer. And one other thing when it comes to organization is you want to make sure that this folder is easily accessible and you're not having to move it around all the time. Whenever I start a project and I'm adding assets into the folder, I have it in 3 places duplicated. I have it on my computer. So my main computer has 4 terabytes of internal hard drive. That allows me to just edit off of the internal drive rather than having a SSD plugged in. Then I'll have a backup drive and a duplicate of that backup drive. And I'll explain more about this system later in this video. So my second tip for you is to use plugins to speed up your workflow. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do with plugins in Final Cut Pro. And for me, I found that it really helps in making sure I can edit faster. So one of the companies that I work with a lot when it comes to my plugins is Motion VFX. I use their MTuber, their MTutorial, and some of the other text plugins to just make motion graphics super simple and super fast. You'll see them all the time in my videos. I might have a hand cursor, or I might draw a box, or I might just have like text pop up, or if I'm working with another creator, you'll see a lower third pop up. And all of those are pre-built. Now, I do some modifications with these plugins, and a lot of times I'll save those modifications. And you can do this by actually opening the plugin in Motion. You have to learn a little bit about Motion, but you can change some of the settings over, resave it into Final Cut, and then you have a plugin that you've customized, and it's easy just to drag and drop onto your footage. Now, this saves you just a ton of time having to redo things over and over. Now, another plugin I use all the time in Final Cut is zooms. And you might think, well, you could just keyframe those pretty quickly, but having a plugin that allows you to do these zooms makes it so simple that you just drop it on top of your footage and it zooms in, and it only takes an action or 2 to get that zoom functional. You just put it on your footage, you put the amount that you want it to zoom, and then you put the directionality of where you want that clip to zoom into. You don't have to deal with keyframing your in points, your out points, and it's super easy to move around. And also, when you use these kind of plugins, you can put them on top of your footage, and affect multiple clips at the same time. It just saves you a lot of time rather than using compound clips and keyframing. Now in the description, there's gonna be a list of the plugins that I personally use. So if you like any of the graphics that you've seen on my videos, I'll put links to all of those in the description. Also, Motion VFX is doing a big sale right now, and I'll include a link down below in the description to that. Motion VFX is not the sponsor of this video. They didn't pay me to say this. I've worked with their plugins for a while. They just sent me an email mentioning this sale, so I thought I would share it with all of you, especially because we're talking about plugins in this video. Now, my next tip for speeding up your editing workflow is to build custom libraries that are kind of like a stock footage library. Now, this is something I've been playing around with, and it actually works super well in being able to organize your footage in a way where you're not continually importing new footage every project that you work on. So when I'm making my videos, there's a lot of times where I dig into old libraries and I need footage from something that I shot like 6 months ago. I always find a use for different footage depending on what project I'm working on, and I found that you can actually make Final Cut Pro libraries as like a stock footage library. So I did this recently for my Alaska trip and my Utah trip when I was working with the DJI Mavic 3. And basically what I do is I upload all of my footage into a library, but I don't use that library for editing. I categorize everything into events and into keywords, and I don't import any of the footage into that library. All of the footage stays on my external hard drives, and the library is basically just a collection of footage. Now, when I'm working on a video, I can open up that library as a secondary library, scroll through, find some shots that I want to use, and just pull them into the timeline I'm currently working on. Now, Final Cut allows you to move clips between libraries without actually moving the clip because you're referencing the clip on the external hard drive. All you're doing is grabbing the shot and bringing it into your library. Now, what this does is it allows me to organize all of my footage once in these bigger libraries, and I only need to open up those libraries if I need to go back and grab some footage from those shoots. Before I was using this library method, I would go in my Finder and try to find shots, and a lot of times those don't play just from the Finder window, so I'd have to import my entire camera library into my new library, and it just would be a mess and it would take me a lot of time. So another video I'm gonna work on in the future is a complete breakdown of how I use this library system and how I can access all of my footage from years of filming in a super quick and concise way. Now, in the beginning of this video, I was talking about hard drives a little bit. So my fourth tip for speeding up your workflow is not dealing with hard drives after you're done editing. And what I mean by that is you don't wanna have things on a hard drive and then have to move that later. So like say a month from now, you need to clear up some space. Well, then you have to move your project files over to another hard drive, and then you have to create a backup of that. And if you're someone who likes to keep all of your footage, it becomes a mess super quick. So I have a system that I use which just simplifies the whole process. I never have to deal with moving footage more than once, and so everything is just super easy to find so that if I ever need to go back, I can easily grab different shots. So the way I use my hard drives is I have 3 copies while I'm editing and 2 copies after I'm done editing. And so basically I'll have my edit drive. This is the drive that I'm working off of. My computer, I have 4 terabytes of space, so I just use that as my working drive. Now I have 2 backup drives. These are bigger drives that I back up my data to. When I import my footage, I'll bring it onto my working drive, and then I'll duplicate that onto both backup drives, just so I always have a backup in case something fails. Now, once a project is done, I collect all my assets, I go to my project library, I go through and I delete generated media files. This is an important step to make your library much smaller. And most of the time you're not gonna need these files after you're done with a project. And I'll take that folder and I'll sync it to my backup drive. So I'll add all the additional assets and the project library into that backup drive. Now I use Carbon Copy Cloner, and I basically create a duplicate drive of that backup drive. It may seem like a lot keeping 2 copies of everything that I do, but I've had hard drives fail on me, and I've been saved by having that backup hard drive. So I use 3 copies while I'm working on a project and 2 when I'm done. And I never touch those hard drives after I've backed them up and I'm done with them. I just keep adding to these drives, and once they're full, I buy new drives. I don't worry about shuffling things around. And I've found that when I'm working on bigger drives, eventually I do need to move the data anyways. I used a Synology system for a while, and it ended up becoming a massive mess just because of the way that the data was stored and the speeds, and I ended up running out of space, and then I either had to add space or I had to take stuff off. I've just found that the simplest way to do this is to have 2 hard drives and just put the footage on it, forget about it, store it away. Hard drives do degrade over time anyways, so I'm not gonna wanna be reusing drives for years and years. If a hard drive fails, I can replace it. And if both hard drives fail, well, that's the worst case scenario. So if you're new to Final Cut or you just want a refresher, make sure you check out my 2-hour course over on Skillshare. I'll put a link down below in the description so you can go check that out. And next, I highly suggest you check out this video right here. It goes through how you multicam in Final Cut Pro, and learning this skill will help you speed up your workflow when you're working with multiple cameras or different sources at the same time. I'll see you over there.